Welcome to ServiceSharp. This is a podcast all about ServiceNow. We'll be talking strategy, architecture, technology, and everything ServiceNow. This podcast is not affiliated with ServiceNow. The opinions expressed are our own. We're just people that are very passionate about the platform. Join us for every episode.
Well, welcome back. This is Jason Gibson. Welcome back to ServiceSharp. We have Brent Peters, Justin Classville, and Randy Haas. We're here having a good time. We're talking about upgrades. We've had some recent experiences with upgrades, both in Orlando and Paris, and so we thought we would have a conversation about things that we've seen and lessons learned for our upgrade. Welcome everybody, and I guess let's just get in the meat of it. Justin, Brent, when was the last upgrade you guys did?
My upgrade was 3 weeks ago, and we went to Orlando, patch 8.
Okay.
Mine was last week. We went to Orlando, and I don't remember what patch.
Oh, I'll talk to why I remember what patch in a minute.
Well, I had a couple. I just recently went to Orlando a couple of weeks ago myself, so and I don't remember what patch as well.
I do remember that I had to upgrade my dev and test before I could clone back down and do an actual upgrade. They had patches on them that prod did not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good stuff.
So what was that?
Prod was on a different, was going to be on a different version, so I couldn't actually clone down from prod. So I had to upgrade my test and dev as well to just a patch level.
So was the patch that you had originally installed in dev and test wasn't available at the time?
We did them a month before, and the auto monthly thing had taken them up to whatever the patch was that month. And prod was still Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was good.
So when you did so basically you got the upgrade, the patch happened in your sub-prod instances before you got the upgrade completed.
Correct. While we were going through the monitor, all the upgrade issues. Unfortunately, fortunately, whatever. We also had other dev that happened at that time. So it ended up taking about 6 weeks, I want to say, actually. It was quite the drawn-out process compared to usual.
No code freeze?
Oh, no, there's code. You know how that works.
Yeah.
There's a code freeze until someone with enough clout comes in and
says it's an emergency.
Yeah.
It's more like a code slushy.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it always is?
I mean, we had a freeze until I sent out the email saying we were in a freeze.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's how it always works. Nobody wants anything until you say no.
We did have a new project freeze. But if you had an existing project, or if we had ever talked to you in the past, or if you were employed prior to when you talked to me, we'd let it go through.
Or if you were born before today.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Well, at least got standards.
Yeah.
It was a process.
That's good.
So just had a lot of arrows that came back at you. So.
So what did you guys think about the amount of skip changes?
Well, when I upgraded my first non-prod instance, it was great. I only had a handful. That's why I know I went to patch 8, is because when we went to dev, the patch that I had done on our first instance was not available anymore, so we had to go to patch 8. And when we went to patch 8, it tripled the amount of skipped items and broke a bunch of things. So we had to redo the whole thing in a week before the upgrade.
Good.
Oh, awesome. No good.
Yeah. So that's why I know I was in patch 8, is because going just, one patch broke a lot of stuff in our system, so I had to go fix it within a week. Because
I must have gone straight to 8 then, because the first time we ran it, it was a very beefy list of things we had to go through.
Yep, that's possible.
900 or something like it was. It was a very large. I mean, that's large compared to usual anyway.
And the instance I was working on started in Aspen, so there's a lot of historical things there. So whenever we went to patch 8, they had changed some ACLs and some of that kind of stuff that, our system never had before. So it really screwed up a bunch of stuff. I mean, ITIL users couldn't even get to comments or work notes or short description. So, some issues there.
Yeah. Well, they separated out and created new roles, right? That new ACLs, that kind of.
Yes, and new roles that kind of overwrote some of the stuff for the ITIL. So in our instance,
what they're trying to do, they're trying to break it down where you can into smaller chunks for roles.
Yeah,
but it just when your system's used to everything in ITIL. It makes it very problematic when they do that stuff.
Right. And I read the release notes for the patch we went to. I didn't think that much about having to do the patch 8 release notes. So I didn't catch that stuff when I went to do it because it was, it was a split second decision. Okay, well, we have to go with 8. So it's one of those things I had to fix.
Yeah, well, and read the release notes. That'll help you a lot. People don't. I've talked to people that are like, no, we don't read the release notes, and it's like, then how do you? Where's your baseline?
Well,
the things it's going to mess up, right?
Right. Release notes. These release notes help you sort of, but there's quite a few things that don't always show up in their release notes. So.
It's just like a baseline. It's like, okay, so I know to look here.
Yep.
Because they changed this, and this. And so it makes it easier. Now, it's like last time I printed it out. I know I'm weird because I like printing them out and actually having them in physical form. It was like 450 pages long.
Wow. See, I just look on them online. That way I save trees.
Like normal adult human beings.
I like the ability to search.
Yes, that's always nice too.
Without my eyes being the only method of said search.
Here, let me lick my finger and start turning pages.
Put some Post-it notes in there. No, I mean, to each their own,
Yeah,
people study that way.
Some people listen to audiobooks, some people read online, and some people like the physical book. So, yeah, it's whatever you're more comfortable with.
For the life of me, I can't do audiobooks. I just don't get it.
I prefer regular books, but I don't have the time, so I do audiobooks.
There you go.
Yeah, audiobooks are great, but
I don't know what that has to do with ServiceNow, but
I just throwing that out.
Yeah,
I was feeling like I needed to say something.
So I did find that.
Great input, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
I try to be informative.
Well,
that is read the release notes and make sure and go over your skipped items because guess what? It matters.
Yes.
Very much so.
And it really helps try to narrow down what was changed also. Because if you're looking at the skipped things or even the things that were, changed, you can go, okay, well, there's what the issue is. They did modify these 6 things or whatever. So.
And sometimes you got to go back and look in the unskipped or whatever they call the other. I think it's called unskipped. But anyway, the one at the very end. That actually mentions things that it does change that it didn't need you about that you may not have noticed in the release notes. It's the thing that's got like 18,000 probably this time, I think is
right.
what it was.
Now
that's how we
great.
Noticed the ACL issue with or what they changed on the approval widget in the portal.
Yep. That's great if you're in Orlando. Now, if you're going up to Paris, the whole upgrade monitor's changed and things look a lot different. So skipped records, you can see them. You can see the reviewed, all that, but I haven't had a whole lot of experience with it. I just saw the screens, so it's a little bit harder to find the, change stuff that they changed on you. It looks like, but
well, that's good. I'm finally getting used to the regular ones. So
yeah,
about time they change it.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's the way ServiceNow is. You get used to the way it is, and they change it up. But you're saying there's a lot more functionality, right?
On the new upgrade monitor, there seems to be a lot more functionality. It just gives you the general, hey, you upgraded from this version to this version. It took this long, so it kind of gives you an upgrade duration. The next little section they have is find out what's changed. So you can look at, generate your own personal release notes. So pretty much what it is, it sends you to a website and it says you came from Madrid patch 7 to Paris patch 2. Here's all the stuff that changed between those two versions. And then they have the error portal that you can go look at, the known errors. And then it starts talking about, there were 22,000 changes made, and here's your 7 that you need to review and that kind of stuff. They also give you the option to take those skipped records that you normally have to go through line by line and put them in a VTB now. So that's always nice.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah,
That is pretty nice, yeah.
and then they give you the pretty colors you can show your executives of like a donut chart and bar charts, that kind of stuff.
Good time. I mean, it is good that to be fair, as an upgrade assistant, I think it's actually very, very handy.
Yep.
Compared to just like some systems, it's kind of like, well, install it to see what it does.
Yeah, on the previous system that I used before ServiceNow, it was kind of the manufacturer told you it would take you 4 to 6 months to upgrade, because you would take and clone your system, you would upgrade it, and then you had to run reports and go through line by line to see which items might have changed. So of those 22,509 changes that were made when I upgraded my dev system to Paris, I'd have to go look at all 22,000 lines. So this is much better than that system.
Now, to be fair, I'm going to just take a huge guess, and it's probably not true because anyway. But they had actual release notes that were not across 20 different pages, or was it still like that where the change log was not just a change log? It was, you had to go through.
Oh, the previous. My previous vendor didn't even have release notes, so yeah, they were
Hence
great.
why they're the previous vendor, I think.
Well, that, and they went in, yeah, yep. So anyways, I mean, yeah, I liked. Well, we can talk about that stuff later, but I liked how ServiceNow used to do the release notes. The ones now are a little bit harder to find the things, but you can still find it.
I think they're just trying to, and the only thing I can think of is that they're trying to dumb it down, and I don't mean to be offensive, it probably is, whatever. Dumb down the, certain, that's why there's 4 of them, right? Is because this level of person, they don't necessarily care about the nitty-gritty of each thing. So they give you the first one, which is kind of like a text paragraph, not even bullet point really.
Right.
And then they give you one that's kind of like module name, bullet point, and then they give you one that actually kind of describes the change. I don't know what the fourth one is off the top of my head, but I guess that maybe is what they're doing, is just trying to make it easier.
Right. And I know that with the new personalized release notes, you can kind of narrow that stuff down to say, I was on this version, now I'm on this version. It will take the patch notes and put them in an HTML view. And you can also narrow that down to, here's the stuff I have deployed, it looks like. Cool. So it helps kind of narrow some of that down, and it's easier to read than it was before. And it looks like, they deployed that as a link in Paris, but you can also use it for your older instances too now.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a website. So it goes to a website, and then from there you just select the versions you're going from and to, and it kind of gives you your stuff. It's pretty cool.
Well, and I do like that. I think I use that when looking at the release notes from I think we were going from New York to Paris, and it was helpful because it did combine them versus what we've had to do in the past is look at both sets of release notes.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're skipping Orlando and going straight to Paris, you had to look at the release notes for Orlando and for Paris to see what you were going to run into. So, yeah. Now, this whole upgrade monitor, I just looked at it yesterday, so I haven't really gone way into it. So it just looks cooler.
At least they're trying to help it out,
Yeah.
Like I said, it already is a useful tool, so anything as long as they don't get rid of it, I guess I should say.
Right.
Yeah.
It is pretty handy, so.
One of the things that I like that I found that when I'm doing the skipped items is I'm starting to group them a little bit more and try and move them out a little quicker. I found that I was going through each and every one independently, and it was taking so long to do it. But then I started grouping things and things that I knew that we were normally going to change, right? Because I review all the skipped items. So that includes like notifications that I've changed and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I've been able to move a lot quicker through the skipped items in this last, release. And that's more of a personal process thing than something that they've changed on the ServiceNow side. But I did notice it went a lot faster to group them up and then move them in that way.
Yep. Yeah.
Only the ones I know are going to be, changes.
Let's see. I think whenever I upgraded to the first patch, I had under 100 skipped items, so it didn't take much to review those. It's like 60 something, something like that. But then whenever I went to patch 8, there were 370 or something like that. So yeah, I kind of grouped them like you said, and just any of the notifications that we've branded with our logo, I'm going to skip notifications. And so on. So you can kind of make some of that, but you do look at your higher priority ones first, don't you?
Yeah, the higher priority first, and then once that gets out of the way, then you can kind of move through the lower priority stuff with grouping them up a little bit. But I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get a lot of super high priority stuff. I think I got like 50 that are the high priority. And remember, they're classified in two separate ways, right?
Yep.
They're skipped changes, and there are skipped customizations. I forget what they're called now. Sorry, guys. Help me refresh my memory here. But one basically is these are things we skipped because you changed them in your system. And the other is these are the things that we skipped that are basically potentially problems, right?
Right.
So definitely look at the ones first. I think last one, there was like 150 and only a smaller portion of them were higher priority, and so went through those first and then went through the rest of them. I ended up going through all skipped items, which is about 900, but I think very similar to Justin, I guess. But it's just important to do that. Especially if you're the architect or the administrator of the system, you're the one who's responsible for the stability.
Yeah, and it'd be nice. It's always nice to find that stuff up front and try to fix it before you move on to testing or even have it show up in prod later. It's just better maintenance if you can do it up front.
Yeah,
I like looking at the modules.
Now,
get an idea what I have that might be a little more customized.
Now, what I ran into, and I think we ran into it to one of the upgrades we did together, was whenever you're looking at the skipped items, they don't always tell you if it's a global app or not. So when I was looking at it, there was some safe stuff in there, some safe agile stuff. And whenever I first did it, it put it in global, and then the update set wouldn't work. And so
I think I did that to probably a couple dozen things.
Yeah.
To fix that for me.
Right. But I had to go and if Justin and you and I didn't run into that before, I would have spun my wheels a little bit longer trying to figure out what in the world went wrong here. But that's what it is if you're doing your skipped items and it's like Safe Agile, that was just the one I ran into. I know that's a scoped app. I may have to watch out that what updates said or what scoped app I'm in, if I'm in global or if I need to go to safe to do that and so on. So just something to keep in mind. They don't warn you in the skipped items that it's another that is not global.
I think you can add app to the lists.
I'm looking and I don't see it right now.
Scope, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look at that. But that's just something you have to keep in mind while you're looking at it. Yep.
Thankfully, you can move it after the fact.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. You don't want to try closing it out and moving it on.
Yes, exactly.
It was good times. Good times.
It always is.
Yeah.
To be fair, for an upgrade, it's not like upgrade wise, like actual code wise. We don't really have to do most of our time is just making sure that what they've changed or want to change it to. Because this time we did a bunch of reverting because they've changed quite a few of their just client scripts and business rules to work a little differently.
Yep.
With like messages and I don't remember the other example off the top of my head.
Calculating SLAs was more efficient the new way. So yeah, it was just how they do some of that stuff.
I don't even know if I don't know if those showed up or not. But yeah, they've changed the code a little bit, and so we were trying to revert back to default, and we did that for a lot of change stuff, and that did not end up working out in our favor because we missed a couple here or there, or they weren't in the skip list, but they were in the changed list, and so it was like half new, half old.
Yep.
Actually, probably more like 80% new and 20% old. But finding out where each thing was a bit of a pain in the butt.
If you have an older instance, that's where I would take that opportunity every time that we did an upgrade in an older instance and roll back as much as I could and really analyze what's going on when I'm looking at the skipped items. And just roll back everything you can. Now, that's going to cause some havoc, and you may have to revert back, to the old code. But rolling back as much as you can to try and get out of the box the best you can, it's going to be a long-term success for you, even if it's a little bit of a short-term pain.
Well, you go from having 900 skipped items to 300 the next upgrade, or 60 or whatever. I mean, you try to stay as close to out of the box, and if you start reverting things back to what they're doing now, it gets you a little bit closer, so your upgrades are a little bit smoother and cleaner.
And a lot of our stuff we had on the last one I did. We hadn't, we must have turned it off or on once. I don't even know what, because there's no difference when I looked at them, but the system flagged it as thinking there was something else.
So I've had
for sure revert back just to try to get rid of whatever flag that, customer touch flag or whatever it's called.
Right, exactly. So I understand that because that happens to me a lot. Now, maybe it's because you go there and maybe you update to get out of it instead of just, getting out of it, maybe. Because I don't know how that happens, but it ends up quite a bit in there. There's no change. It's all the same.
I don't know. I've run into a few that are, whenever you bring up the comparison, it says no difference. I like Justin said, I just say revert back. But then there's a few that come up. I know I've never touched this business rule, but it came up and said it was different. Well, because they have spaces or something. And I was like, I've never touched that. But okay, revert it back. But it's kind of a weird how the skipped items kind of work, but it's always good to go look through that. I like doing that. And I don't.
They've also done another thing to look out for is they change it to use a script include on a condition instead of just having the fields on there. That's another one that it may not be as big of a change as you think. So just bring up that script include and see what they're doing. They're probably doing something very similar, if not exactly the same.
Yeah, I've noticed
the states and stuff. Those are generally the same as what they were I mean, I'd still look at them, but
yeah, they have started using script
Right?
includes a lot more.
Pull up the script includes and look at them. Really do that side-by-side comparison. The tool does it for you. Just don't be lazy. Pull it up, look at it, go line by line, look at the code. And you need somebody that understands what's going on in the code and that can read it properly, and really figure that out. But go through it and make sure, because there were some stuff that I ended up rolling back to out of the box because they changed something dramatically, and there's other stuff that I've merged because I thought it's better to keep parts of what was done.
Yeah, the merge is not a bad thing because let's say they're doing, like Justin said, they're doing something a little bit more efficient in a business rule, but you still want one condition added in there. You can always merge it so that you have their new code, but you still have your condition in there to say, okay, only run it whenever it's this state or whatever, that kind of thing. So it is good to do the side-by-side comparison and try to figure that out, as long as you understand what's being done. You can mess things up. So
yeah, don't just click accept.
If you just roll everything back to out of the box, just so you know, that doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's probably been one instance where it did, so we need to say it probably won't.
Probably, yes.
Right. I mean, yeah, you could roll everything back, and eventually everything would. I mean, it'd work. It just might not work the way that your business or corporation wants it to work.
Yeah, you're used to it working.
Yeah.
Well, or because there is a customer. So, and this is something other people need to understand also. These are just the customizations that were skipped or a problem. This isn't all the customizations in your system.
No, it's just the stuff that on this upgrade they were touching as well.
They were going to upgrade or touch or fix or whatever, yeah.
So if you roll back something that you've created something somewhere else, or it's connected somewhere to something they haven't touched, you can actually do more damage than good. So really look at them and decide what you want to do. And remember, though, you can always revert, right? Revert them back.
Yep.
So
I did run into one this time that it out of the box, it wasn't working correctly. So we went in and put a fix in. And when I went to look at the difference, because they said, oh, well, you've modified it, so here's your review. It was pretty much line for line the same, but they did that fix just slightly different. But yeah, they were fixing their issues. So I thought that was pretty cool that they admitted that it was wrong and were fixing something. But it was pretty cool to see that we had fixed it first.
Well, you could have submitted a high ticket for that, offering the suggestion to fix it.
No, I don't share my information with anybody. I don't do podcasts or help people out at all.
No.
Yeah.
So I will say, I'm going to have to step away here for a few minutes, but before I do that, I would like to point toward the biggest issue you had during this previous upgrade, which for me was the approval change. On the portal, they changed the approval widget to require a role.
Yes.
And that I did not find. I mean, there may be documentation out there, and I'm just horrible at searching it, but I could not find anything that specifically mentioned that. And it doesn't do it in the platform view or CMS view, whatever that normal ITIL view. There's 40 names.
That was a problem. That was a big problem. I mean, we did some testing, and then we went to figure that out, and then all of a sudden now we're changing the widget because we can't get anybody to go approve it unless you have,
the button. They can load it. The buttons just. I want to say the buttons didn't show at all. I don't think they were just grayed out. Yeah, they were gone.
The instance I saw, the buttons weren't there. They could see it, but they couldn't actually approve it at all.
But that didn't show up until, I want to say maybe it was test. It might have been testing, but that's one that, you don't generally see that. as part of your test, or I didn't see it as part. It's now on the list of things to make sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it was not because I do approvals with I'll impersonate a user and do an approval, but I don't. Never thought to make sure it was in all different things.
Yeah,
both different areas.
We heavily customized our portal a couple of years ago, and I figured out that I have to test everything in the portal now on every upgrade or anytime we make an update to a form or anything. So that is something I've done, but because we heavily customized it, we didn't have that issue when we upgraded because we already had a custom widget. One.
Nice. Yeah, we were using I think the 2 upgrades I've done to Orlando, I want to say both were using the default and both had the same issue.
Well, the one I worked with you on did. So
it was a lovely thing. But all right, I'm going to step away for a couple minutes. You guys continue your awesomeness.
So while he steps away for a minute, let's actually go to a quick break and hear from our sponsors. So let's just give it a couple minutes, and we will talk to you guys in just a minute.
This podcast was made with Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to create and publish your podcast. It's free. Creation tools with it allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Helps you distribute your podcast. It's super simple to publish to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, any of the major ones. You can make money from your podcast. There's no minimum listenership, so they make it super easy to monetize. It's really everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So why don't you go out and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started.
Welcome back. This is Jason Gibson, ServiceSharp. We got Brent Peters, Justin Classville, and Randy still on the call here. We are talking about upgrades and upgrade issues that we've had and just kind of having a little conversation about it. When we were talking earlier, we were talking about some of the things that we found when skipped items. And I want to kind of switch around and kind of go with some of the things that we found in the New York, Orlando, and Paris upgrades. Do you guys have anything that has stood out in any of those upgrades that seemed odd to you, or things that maybe weren't in the notes, the release notes?
One thing that I knew kind of stood out just because I saw it in every instance I've upgraded so far to Orlando, and that is some of the ATFs for, I think it was changed, but the SysID on the updates does not match the SysIDs that are out of the box. So that was a skipped item that you can't go change.
Yeah, that was odd. That really did strike me as odd. That I remember seeing that and picking up the phone and calling and going, okay, has anybody else seen this? It just seemed weird that they had a different SysID. I mean, there was nothing you can do about it. There was no change you can make.
No, you just have to skip that one and go, well, hope it doesn't come back. But yeah, right. It was the weirdest thing. I just, 2 separate companies, 2 separate instances, and I saw it on both of them. It was the weirdest thing. So that was one. I can't think of anything else right now.
You know, on this latest one to Paris, one of the things that came out after that I was talking to somebody today about is it looks like they've changed the way their search engine indexes. And so things that people were able to search previously without quotes that had dashes in them, it wouldn't pick them up. But if I type Jason-Gibson, right, and it would look for Jason-Gibson, well, it wouldn't find it. But if I put Jace quotes around it, it would find it. And I'm not sure what that was about.
I mean, that's kind of like standard search engine stuff. So I've never tried it before. So if they added it, that's good. Yeah, that's how like Google works. You require anything between these quotes to be in any result.
Right. But yeah. I it's just, that's not something that you would see in the release notes unless they say something about the Zing search engine got updated or whatever. But that's kind of strange that happened.
I'll have to. We didn't do it before, or at least I didn't ever try that before, so I can't can't confirm it was ever not that way, but that's a good change if that's.
I thought so.
That's
too.
why I would expect it to work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. So that was interesting. I figured that out today, and that was a little bit of a change. I was talking with Kathy, and she was having that issue with one of her customers that says, I could search this, a week ago, but I'm trying to search this today and there's nothing there. And she's like, well, try putting the quotes around it. And sure enough, bam, it came up. So very different. Very neat. They're always making improvements, and you're not going to notice. That's the other thing. You're not going to notice all of them
right off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are little stuff behind the scenes that your customers are going to find. And I hate to say that. I wish I could say that nobody's going to ever notice any difference, but that's just not going to be the case.
That's true. Most of the time you won't see a difference. It's those little oddball things that, one user does or whatever. And it's like, you're not going to find that every time. Now, next time you do an upgrade, are you going to test the search function to see if it will have dashes or anything? Well, I can probably tell you no. You're just going to make sure search works.
Right. Yeah.
So, but there's always, out of, all of your users from, 100 users to 10,000 to 11,000 or hundreds of thousands of people, everybody's going to use it a little bit differently. So you just have to kind of assume there's going to be a few things that pop up after the upgrade.
Yeah, especially you got to keep in mind, it's like, if I stand on my head and I say Baba Yaga 12 times and then jump up real fast, then this happens, right? I mean, the reality is every end user has their way of doing something, their way of getting to something, and you can't possibly test every single possible variation. You want to get as thorough a testing job as you can.
Yep.
But you're not going to get every scenario that could possibly happen.
If there is someone who has that as part of their ritual for typing into the search engine, I actually do want them on my test team.
Right. Oh yeah.
I will not tell my testers this, but a lot of my test subjects that I get people to do testing are the troublemakers. It's like, you always have had issues, so I'm going to have you on my testing team.
I love it, because I do the same thing. I'm like, you're going to break it, so I'm putting you on my testing, because you will break it. You will find a way to find something that breaks it. I want you on my testing team.
Okay. I keep going back to my old application, but I had a user that she would do, I don't know what she did, I can't remember, but she would do a search and then hit cancel and try to do the search again or something. But she did this like once or twice a week, and she would start deleting the database. But she wasn't hitting delete, she was just canceling out of something. And so we finally figured out what she was doing and told her not to do it anymore. But from that day forward, she was on my testing team because she always had the weirdest ways to get around in the system. So,
and now I bet she's still on your testing team.
Oh, no, she got let go a long time ago, so she's no longer on there.
Gotta love corporate world.
Yeah. Outsourcing is always awesome. So.
Well, let's just make sure that everybody is aware of the sarcasm filter there.
Oh yeah, there was sarcasm in that. I'm not a huge outsourcing fan, but it happens.
There's a place and a time, but
yes, there is.
Your entire IT.
You're leaving it open for interpretation. The reality is we all hate the outsourcing thing. But
I don't, because you hire me. What are you talking about?
It depends.
It depends.
It depends.
I don't like outsourcing the entire IT department, but there are pieces that should be, that makes sense to outsource.
But outsourcing and consulting are kind of, there's a gray line. Yes.
Yeah.
Outsourcing,
as a consultant, I love outsourcing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a difference. There's a difference between what has happened in some organizations where they've come in and outsourced all of IT or outsourced the majority of the IT.
Even your help desk, or service desk, whatever you want to call your help desk. even if you outsource that, I understand there's a lot of cost savings there and a lot less liability for the turnaround you're going to have. But those are the people that are probably going to, depending on if you hire within, like that is a great route to get really hardworking people who have loyalty to your company and, and they're just going to grow in the job.
But the other thing is, but on the flip side of that, there's a time and a place for everything. And I am a true believer that you need to outsource things locally, or at least in the United States, that are things that you are lacking and there are gaps in your organization.
Well, I think outsourcing just to save money is a universally bad idea.
Yeah.
But if you're outsourcing for an expertise that you don't have, it's a big difference.
Right. Or can't get in your area.
Or a scale thing. You can't scale locally.
Right. I mean,
which is a big thing. I mean, especially in ServiceNow. I mean, how many people does it take to run your instance, right? Now I need to upgrade, and now I need to do an upgrade. Well, I may not have enough people. Maybe I need to do, an implementation. Now I don't have enough people. So, it allows for that flexibility to move forward without committing to a larger staff.
Right. Well, outsourcing is different than, what do we call it? When you just augmenting your staff.
Right. Yeah.
So, yep. Okay, I took us down a rabbit trail. Sorry.
Well, actually, going on that topic, how, well, no, I don't. The amount of people, you know what I mean? Like, I have in the not too distant past, talked on a resume type thing, had a little application there and talked to them, and they had zero intent on hiring more than one person for the entirety of their implementation / development and admin. And I'm like, all of that in one role. You have been, the salesman has lied to you unless you have half a module activated.
Yeah.
And 5 users. That is true. You're probably going to need. This hits home, I guess, for Brent.
I was going to say, I have 12 or 15 modules, and I'm pretty much it.
Yeah, but it's not good.
No, it's not. I'm stressed all the time.
Right. And you're not the only one. You have some people.
No.
And you do become a bottleneck, right?
Yes,
right.
I am quite a bit of a bottleneck because I do have someone that helps with day-to-day admin of like groups and users, and that person can also do some form management stuff. But when it comes to anything in the background that needs to have some kind of script or whatever, I'm the bottleneck because I'm doing all the other stuff or any of the new implementations. So
constraints are an issue in any kind of organization, and this isn't new. We've been talking about constraints in manufacturing for decades, and why that hasn't equated out over into IT, I have no idea. Because the reality is, you have an unlimited potential in ServiceNow to grow and to be a tool for your organization to drive you forward and do great things.
Right. But the tool,
you're going to commit one person as a resource, there is no way you're going to succeed in that.
But the tool is so automated and does everything on itself, and there's, no code, development, all that. You really only need half a resource.
And if people are listening that don't know you, that is sarcasm.
Oh yeah, it is. But
well, the thing about,
but that's the same with all of IT.
Yeah. So. The thing about it is as technology becomes less of a differentiator, because it's getting cheap, so nothing is unique necessarily to one company. It's the people that are where your creativity and everything goes. So if you're sacrificing people for automation or for cost savings or something like that, you're really getting rid of your competitive advantage.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And your competitors are taking those people.
Yeah. And even if you don't get rid of all your competitive advantage, you've broken morale and broken trust with the people that are left.
Yep.
If you manage to pull someone like a Brent in, and then you think, well, I can get so and so, I can get a temporary thing or whatever, outsource, yada yada yada, for much cheaper and only part time. Well, yeah, but how much stuff do you get just by how long? One, he's been at the like that particular thing has been doing it for however many years it's been since they started it. So he's got that much knowledge.
I think he's been spending 30 years in some sort of.
Actually,
he was 10 when he was 10 when it started.
ServiceNow, I am now on my 8th year. Service management tool, I think I'm on my 16th year.
Yeah,
that's a lot of just knowing where things are at that you lose if they decide to ever get rid of you. Like that's,
yeah, you know where the bones are buried.
I helped bury a lot of them. Yeah,
you helped bury a lot of them. Yeah.
But
how many times have you guys gone into an instance, and this will be more for Justin, I think, gone into an instance and realized there's a lot of bones, but you don't know where they came from?
I know where they came from.
Desperation.
He's currently talking.
Yeah.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's not right.
No. There's always little, and that's kind of a thing that anyone who comes, even if you're a contractor or full time and you go on to a new place, like you're always going to have to try to learn either there's somebody's coding style. Like I'm a heavy user of script includes. I don't know anyone else who is. I know you guys both know how to use them, but you don't I don't believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe your first instinct for something is to create it as a script include.
I'm getting more and more like that.
So yeah, I was about to say I'm getting there.
I mean, if it is a client side thing that I want, or if I'm calling it from the client side, I try to do script includes so that it all gets processed there instead of the client and stuff like that.
Business rules both. I mean, that's
and business rules. But some guru told me how to do that a long time ago, and I just thought, okay, he's smart. Then he left, and I don't know that he's that smart anymore. But
his IQ definitely dropped 3 points.
I'll remember that the next time my phone rings.
The next time I'm calling you, begging you. Hey,
you may have a special ringtone. I don't know.
But along that same lines, though, you're saying, you're coming into an instance. I've been in this particular instance since we deployed it in Aspen. I mean, before it was even Aspen, we were deploying, and we upgraded our deployment before we actually never went live. So I've had my hands in there, but you have consultants come in, or you have implementers come in, or people to help do all that other stuff. You're right. You have to learn how they did things because they did it their way, and it wasn't always the same way that your company does it. So,
and to be fair, you've been in there long enough that I'm sure you can sometimes pull up code from 5 years ago. Like if any of the stuff I did 5 years ago, it might take you a minute to remember how was I doing? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Not just variable names, but even the way you structure it. You know what I mean? Until,
I don't know, 4 years ago, when I started working with you guys, it might have been even longer. It feels like an ages, but it's only been 4 or 5 years. Until then, I just wrote the code and I didn't care. But then I started working with you guys and thinking, well, if they're looking at the code and trying to figure out what I was doing or whatever, they're not going to be able to do that. So I started notating what I was doing in my code, just briefly.
Comments are a little.
Yeah, comments are great.
Honestly, I was horrible for the longest time, and Justin can attest to that.
Well, I can too. I'm still fixing things.
I'm still fixing it.
Guys, you say what? I've seen your ticket documentation.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad. I'm just saying, this week I had a customer call and say, we want to change this, and I'm looking at this going, well, what was he doing here? So I had to go break down what you were doing. I'm not saying it was broken. I'm just saying it's like.
Well, comments are really important, and it took me a long time to figure that out.
To be fair, when you started, you were not a coder, right?
It took me being in charge of this system.
Yes.
To care.
Yep.
So when I was just being a developer, and all I did is do development and or admin or that kind of thing, and I relied on Brent and Justin for the other parts of it, I didn't grasp and understand it enough. And when I went over to other organizations and became in charge of all of it and had to do that especially I went to an organization that had an old instance of ServiceNow that was heavily customized. I realized at that point how important it was. And so ever since then, I've gotten better at it. I'm not, I could probably document better still and still need to probably work on it. But when you're in charge of it, you start realizing, oops, I should have been doing that all along.
Well, part of that is you were growing as a developer, because when you started, you were new to it. So
Right.
it's not like you
were hired.
You didn't fully understand yet why people talk about comments or good variable names. I am looking at you for that in the
Now,
past.
I will say I've never gotten to the point where I sign and date it, that I updated it this time. I figure the system does that.
Yeah.
I just put notes in there of why I did this and what it's doing, that kind of
I
stuff.
do wish they would let you add that to when you hit when you say the versioning for like a business tool.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a module you can add on or something, but that would be lovely if every time I go to save, I could just have a little. I guess I could make that myself. Have a little.
I was going to
pop-up
say that sounds
says-
like an app that could be created and you put on the
something
share
like that. It does, yeah.
or something.
Because, I mean, in there you have your own. I mean, it's not true version control, but it is a very simple version control.
Yep.
And you can just glance at it. So now sometimes I hit save enough that that would not.
That would be annoying.
Yeah. But that technically, that's usually only in a dire fire instance,
Oh,
But
I do it line by line. Each time I add one, I hit save.
Or,
No,
you know
I don't.
the buttons at the top of your code editor? Add another button that said, do comment on version. So you click it and then it pops it up and you can put a comment for that version.
Okay, we kind of moved away from upgrades to
I feel like it's some sort of design session. We're
Programming.
giving out
yeah.
free designs to people here.
If anybody's hearing this, build that for us. I'm just saying, right?
Or don't let me build it and bill you for it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I like that idea better.
I like that.
Hey,
Yeah, if you
I'm
see it
thinking-
show up on the shop,
I was going to say that's a shop thing.
live brainstorming. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, as for the upgrade-
look like,
Like just in general, what? How do you guys feel like because we've all done, I want to say at least 2 each.
I've done a few.
Well, I mean, even just recently,
Yeah.
within the last 3-4 months, we've all at least done 2. I want to say.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, how do you feel just overall? Was it any different than, like, for me, I don't feel like this was the process didn't feel any different than the previous upgrades I've done. It did feel like I had to look at the coding changes in the skipped items much harder this time. And I don't know if that was just because they did some changes to change itself. So I don't know if it was just like a module thing that had me. It felt like it took a little longer.
It depends on what all has changed. I've done a few upgrades in the years, but some of them are simple. Some of them are a little bit more complex because they've made major changes to modules, like you said, to change management and stuff.
I will say,
So
I didn't see anything significant for incident.
no, and
I don't think I saw anything for incident.
it really doesn't happen that often for incident. So the newest thing I think for incident is major incident module, but I could be wrong there. But I don't know. The first 2 or 3 upgrades I did for ServiceNow kind of stressed me out, and I was always worried about it. But over the years, I've done several, and as long as you do your due diligence up front and you make sure that you have testers that actually have tested the system and that you've gone and looked through all your skipped items and you've made sure things work, you can even use the ATS, the automated testing framework, to do it. I still would have end-user tests. That's just
With
the first run through.
Right.
It should not be stressful. You should just, do all that, and upgrade happens, and apply your fixes if you need to, and everything goes on.
And speaking of applying the fixes, make sure that you do update sets correctly while going through your upgrade monitor.
Yes. Yeah,
'Cause if you
where
don't
I
pay
was talking
attention-
earlier with the scoped apps and all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even just making the change and not realizing, like, you're not making something that's going to carry over automatically. You're going to have to move that update set.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And
talk about ATS for just a second.
ATF.
I had, thanks, Justin.
alcohol, tobacco, firework.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the automated testing, we created. So one of the systems that I've worked with, went through and created all the ATS for incident change request. All forms, everything was tested. We had integrations in ATS. So we spent a lot of time and money, and then I say money because, again, part of that was outsourcing. So if you want that done in your system, let us know. But it really was extremely useful in an upgrade. We would turn it on, run it, identify issues, make changes, then have our testers. It cut our time testing down significantly. Now, I still had testers test.
Oh yeah, I would always recommend having human testers.
Which I did have some people say, well, if you're running these ATFs, why are you having testers test? And I went, well, a computer can't replicate a human's eye.
Right. Well, your ATF, you programmed it to work a specific way every time.
Right.
So it's always going to follow the same steps every single time. A human might not follow the steps in the same order. Kind of like we were talking about getting troublemakers to do it for you.
Right.
And even those ATFs, you can get a false positive, right?
Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, there were quite a few, actually.
And that's not necessarily on the ATF system. That just may be the way that, like some of the, what do they call it? They're not functions, whatever you call it, steps. There we go. Each, some of the steps are actions. No, it's steps. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Some of those are more powerful than others.
Yes.
Right.
And I will tell you this, the funniest thing. So we got done building a whole bunch of them. We had built 10 or 15. So it's just a start. And I started noticing that they all ran just fine, almost no matter what. And I started looking at them, and they were all run as admin. And so I had to get with the team and say, listen,
You can't run them as admin.
as individual users, right? In that way, but then when we went to upgrade, there were some other issues with that. But you want to run it as a general IT user. And
One of your first steps is going to be a impersonation script.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, what I found whenever I started playing with them is something to keep in mind, because it didn't happen to me, but it came to mind, is don't pick real users when you want to do the impersonation.
Right, yeah.
Pick generic users that have the same roles as those people.
Well, that's what I
have
said.
a generic
When I said
service
we ran
desk
into
user.
issues, we ran into issues with people being gone.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
promoted. Or,
Failing.
You pick Joe Blow, and Joe Blow gets let go next week. All of a sudden, your ATFs will quit working.
So we set up some users, some dummy
Yep.
users.
Yep. So that's kind of what I was getting to. But yeah, nothing beats a human tester, though.
Nothing but human tester. But I will tell you that there is no reason, if you have the ATFs and you have everything in order and you're willing to do your due diligence, you can upgrade in 2 or 3 weeks. But
yeah. I mean, you could
have to
do an
be
upgrade. It'd be stressful because, well, it kind of is. I've done it. Doing an upgrade in 2 weeks, it can be done, but you're spending a lot of time going through that to make sure it works. So,
based on the standard listening group, I believe, to this podcast, I will throw out there that is an exceptional ask of pretty much any ServiceNow instance, no matter how customized it is. So do not expect your team to do that in 2 to 3 weeks.
No. This is maximum. This is using ATFs. This is making sure. So there is that is a perfect storm. You need to set aside at least a month.
I was going to say, I would think, on average, my upgrades are a month. I think most of the time they're going to be a month, 4 to 6 weeks. probably, I would think.
That's been about this last one for me was 6, but I think the one before that was 4.
Now,
so,
if
but
you're
that's
gonna
with the
do
code freeze.
right now, if you're going to do an upgrade and deploy new features at the same time, that might extend your upgrade further because you have to do.
Try not to do that.
I would try not to, but some cases, some people, that's the only time they can do it. So I would be very cautious about that, though.
I mean, so when I first started, I really loved the idea of launching a significant number of new features when we did the upgrade, because they're expecting an upgrade, they're expecting changes, and oh, look how the pretty stuff, look how new it is, look how it's going. The problem with that is it drags the upgrade process that should have been a month to 2 months. And you're sitting at the end of it and you launch it and there's just so much more potential for issues.
And the longer you take or stretch it out, like for me, this last one, they had a patch that then my dev and prod were no longer in sync because dev had upgraded because it took me 6 weeks, unfortunately. And the patching, monthly patching process, they upgraded it and I didn't catch it. So, yeah, I mean, the longer you take, the more likely you are.
Well, I've run into where I upgraded and it took long enough because we were deploying something at the same time. This was a long time ago. By the time I was done, the new upgrade for the next version was out, and they wanted me to upgrade to it. So I had 2 weeks off and then started the next upgrade. So you make it too long, you're going to be an upgrade behind. And I think across the board now, ServiceNow will only let you be one upgrade behind, right?
They auto update you, I believe, on the second.
Yeah. So if
that's the threat. I don't know if you can actually put pressure to them to get you to hold off, because
they say no. They say no, but we'll see.
So you can, but in order to do that, you have to get a suite. You have to request, and it's a special request, and you have to have a time frame, and it can't be, I just want to postpone it forever. It
like it used to be.
I'm in the middle of an upgrade, and I need to postpone for a week.
Yeah.
Good times. And with the release cadence that they're at, I mean, that means every year you're going to have roughly a month, unless you try to do every upgrade, I guess, and then you'll have 2 months of potential downtime.
Yep.
But I don't think that's true, though, sometimes. So I personally believe that if you upgrade twice a year, the upgrade should take less time.
You're still doing the same process every time, so it's going to be a month long. Each one will be.
And again, each upgrade, month thing is pretty. Like for me, it's you start and you schedule the upgrade. Then you're in whatever instance you are going to do that to. I know some do it to test. I do it to dev. Some only have 2 instances. So anyway, you deploy it to whatever instance. Then you look at the upgrade monitor. Then you deploy it to, assuming you have 3, let's say you have 3 incidents, then you would do it to the next one and then apply your patches. You know what I mean? Like it's not like each one of those is not a day process type of thing.
Right. Yep.
So even if you are going fast, you're not going to do one in 4 days. I don't know if you actually could.
But you might be able to do one quicker, where it doesn't take a month, it takes 3 weeks. I mean, it's not probably half, but it is less time because you have less problems caused by the upgrade.
No, each upgrade is going to affect different items. So,
that's the point, right? And if you skip one, you're getting.
I see what you're saying. My problem is usually getting the SMEs, the actual clients to.
Best.
Our customers, whatever, to actually get in there and do the testing or then do the verification, or like there's so much scheduling issues that I end up having that it's not necessarily I don't have the update sets ready. Like for me on this last one, besides all the side stuff that kept slipping through code freeze, I also could not get our ARB, or whatever you want to call your architecture, the people who approve you doing the actual major change, if you have that in your company. We could not get them they only meet once a month. We missed the first one. Well,
now you got to wait.
Or they had questions. Thankfully, they did we talked them into doing a quick little side meeting, like an emergency ARB. But still, that's like there's a lot of things that can slow you down without it necessarily being that your update set's not ready to go.
Right. It could be the processes you have to go through.
So for
Your
me,
change
once a
management
year is enough of a
process.
headache that I don't want to do it twice a year.
Yep.
I will if they make me, obviously. Or if there's some huge update to a module that we're using that is really beneficial, of course we would, take the effort to do that upgrade. But to be honest, I haven't seen anything that's been a killer reason for me to upgrade. There's been things that have been nice to have once we upgraded. But there was nothing that was like, I'm going to do this 6 months early just to get that. There may be in the future. I'm not saying
impersonation.
Yeah,
that's nice.
What about it?
But there have been reasons. One upgrade I did because project management it had so many new features, so we did that because it was going to fix a lot of the issues we had. Safe module, there was quite a few changes in Paris for that, so I will probably go to Paris pretty quickly so that I can fix that kind of stuff. Or not fix, there's nothing broken with it. It's new features, new ways of doing things. Enhancements. Thank you.
I can see
so that kind of stuff I could see, but you can do an upgrade in 2 weeks, Jason. But that's probably with no testing, and that's probably whatever. In my case, it was 2 weeks exactly, and it was because I was being forced to do it, and there was no testing, and luckily nothing happened on that upgrade for me. But it's not something I would ever advise anybody to do.
Yeah, but do the ATFs change it? Because when we were doing it in that shorter time, the ATFs were the ATFs, and I had a full team dedicated to testing.
To me, an ATF is just
that are dedicated to testing at the time. So
an ATF is just a frontline.
It's another data point for me. It's not. Yeah. I'm still going to do the full testing I would do normally.
Yep.
It's just helping me. Like, it's basically doing a quick check against the people I do have testing, because how we've all done it where you have testing is due by 2 weeks from today, and one beautiful soul actually does the testing. And you never hear back from anyone else. Well, at the very least, you have that update set, or that ATF, and it could catch something. You've done your own testing, but it's it's a little bit on top of that.
It depends on the size of the team too.
Yeah.
The reality is, I'll give you a good example. An organization I know currently has about 8 different developers and architects working on the upgrade. That's just the developers and architect, and each one has their own module to verify. And then it's a worldwide application, so each team has a group of testers for each module. I mean, if you can organize that to happen quickly, you could do a lot of good stuff.
You still got.
Have you ever tried to organize a group that large to do anything in 2 weeks?
Yes, once.
Have you ever been successful?
Yes.
In organizing that.
I will have to say,
here's the thing. The problem is you have to have dedicated testers.
Yeah.
And I had a team of very dedicated testers that were actually really good, and that's rare. You don't get that all the time.
No.
Yeah. I mean, if I had go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd have to say 98% of the companies out there that have ServiceNow probably don't have that. And I'm probably being a little low on that. It might be like 99% of the companies don't have dedicated testers.
To each module. Like if I had a developer to each module and stuff who could actually go through the upgrade monitor and, we split out, especially with what it sounds like they're doing with Paris, like you said, where you can actually do the ATF stuff.
Yeah.
Or not ATF, VTB stuff. Well, I'm just mixing all my acronyms up.
Yeah.
But anyway, you being able to split it out like that, I mean, I could see how those could be done in a very short time, assuming that, again, all those people could be scheduled to actually have that be their priority during it. But I'm lucky to get everything. For me, I just get you end up getting very little feedback from that testing phase. It's such a pain in the butt.
And I'm just
involvement. Engagement.
Yeah, and I make the assumption that most people don't have 16 developers, that they have pretty much themselves.
What if you just didn't do testing?
Well,
in user testing?
I would
your
not be with
ATS?
that. I would not be with that company very long if their
Do
standard.
your
is to not
sanity
do
checks. What would be the negative repercussions?
a lot of broken stuff after the upgrade.
Okay.
What would be the? What are you doing? I don't know when this will be published, so I hate to say the date, but I know the date leads credence to being weird or whatever, being a Friday 13
Well, I just say it's in the year 2020, so that's even weirder. But
yeah, well, that too.
Jason, you're living in a dream world if you think that you can upgrade a system with no issues, no testing in 2 weeks or in an accelerated process.
I never said I thought it could happen. I just thought I'd ask you what you thought of it.
Oh, it's probably not going to happen. You got to have the process of going through the whole system to make sure that you think it's going to work, that you do your fixes, and then I don't know. If you didn't have end user testing, then you better be very good at impersonating people and testing them for them, and then go from there. Because I can tell you, I've had.
Part of the reason I'm saying these things is, let's be honest. How many stories have you heard of people doing an upgrade, pushing the button, not doing any sort of skipped item review or any testing, and just pushing the button and being done? How many times have you heard?
I'm sure it happens.
Story?
I've actually heard a story where someone upgraded their dev. Yeah, it looks like it worked. There were no errors in the upgrade. I'm gonna do tests, and then I'll schedule the upgrade next Friday. And they just do the upgrade without even doing any testing. And they had some issues afterwards.
But it's common, and that's what I think.
Is it?
Man, it is absolutely common.
Okay.
So when you guys did your admin cert, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's been a while. Let's not get talking about the cert process, Justin. Okay, I won't talk about the cert process. But anyway,
about the new cert process.
I haven't paid my dues or whatever they want to call it.
I went ahead and paid the extortion money.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. Anyway, but when you took it, they don't. That's not a normal admin, which is unfortunate. When I say unfortunate, which is probably what most companies have as their on-site person. They only have 1 or 2 admins, if they're even a certified admin. They may be homegrown admin with air quotes. Nothing against you people. If you're listening, you are great. Keep learning. Go to the developer website. Keep getting knowledge.
Go to the developer.
Are listening.
Yeah.
What about the few that are in the conversation here?
Well, anyway, you're grandfathered in to having one anyway. But still,
I just don't have time to go get certified right now.
The whole point I'm trying to make here is that though you're not going to even necessarily know that you'll know an upgrade, and you may know of the upgrade monitor, and you may see that it said 900 items, but you're not going to necessarily know you're supposed to do something to those 900 items.
I will have to say, I agree. There's no documentation that says this is the best way for you to do an upgrade. Make sure you have people testing them. I mean, that is just something.
Well, they do have the checklist now.
Well, they have a checklist, but they do have a checklist. I haven't looked at it in a few years, so I don't know what all's in it.
Yeah.
But I know that it doesn't line by line, like you said, okay, here's your 900 items to go through, compare them and that kind of stuff, figure out which one you want, go by line, whatever. But they also don't say, you should have someone test every single module, and, you should have multiple people testing, and that your upgrade should take this long, and that you should put it in test or in dev, then test, then prod, and all that stuff. They don't have it all lined out.
Why you do things.
I wonder how many people just let it do the auto upgrade.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I let it auto patch.
That would be a nice. Yeah, I do too. I don't manually do the patching.
Yeah.
Unless it's going to be during a weird on-call, like during holidays or whatever. But they don't do those anymore anyway.
Yeah.
So we've got a company holiday.
Or if there's something in it that might be a problem, right?
Well, yeah,
like they did with the Discovery thing a couple patches ago.
You do go look at the release notes, but that's just, someone new to doing system admin kind of stuff. Like, let's say they were the manager of the help desk, and the company decided, hey, you're going to be the admin over ServiceNow now. that person's never managed an application. Probably, they've probably just managed the people, the service desk. They might turn around and go, "Okay, now what do I need to do an upgrade?" So, maybe there needs to be something out there. Or
I don't think they have any dev course or training course on it, do they?
No, they don't.
I've never looked, but
have you ever been through their training courses?
Yes.
On the developer side.
Well, I mean, okay, on the developer side, but I'm thinking, developer or whatever. They're very generic and I mean, they're good training. I mean,
I think the only upgrade stuff I've
them.
seen is like they'll sometimes during knowledge have, or maybe between, they'll have like a things to keep in mind type of.
Yes. Yep.
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
Right. I was just saying, I don't know that there's anything out there to tell the new people, here's some best practices when you're going to do upgrades. I know we've talked about it before.
The best thing for you to do if you're doing an upgrade right now, or you need to do an upgrade right now, and you don't have the right people in place, you just need to call Randy Haas with Sharpstone and say, hey, we need some help.
Well, and I mean, if that help is just, we need help doing it, or, we just need some advice on how to best do this. I mean, either
firefighting after the fact.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, or firefighting after the fact.
Well, I mean,
I'm
like
here
if
to
you
help
get
anybody, so
like right now with the cadence, like we were talking about earlier. I mean, you may have gotten an upgrade without realizing it even happened. So
right, yeah.
And then you are in fire mode.
Let's just say you have ServiceNow, all your ServiceNow mail goes to junk mail. You don't know that it happened, and all of a sudden you come in and it's like, why do I have to log in? Why is this stuff different? Yeah, I could see that maybe.
I hope that doesn't happen to anybody. Please be checking the High portal and know when your upgrades are.
They do send you emails, and they're very wordy at the top of them. I really wish they'd get to the point on some of those, like the scheduling ones, or the, or even like we were talking about the cert one, even like getting to the line that anyone cares about. It was in bold, but it was 7 scrolls down. Not really.
I briefly read them, and then I let Tammy come back and my other admin come back and go, Brent, hey, did you know this was happening? Oh yeah, I saw that email.
Yeah. Well,
I did see the email. I may not have read past the title. Anyway, overall, I think for an application, I'm sorry, I did how offensive a platform such as ServiceNow, the upgrade process really is good compared to pretty much anything. Because my life previously, or the one right before this, was SharePoint, and so if there's any SharePoint folks out there, it's absolutely nothing like.
Oh, the upgrade process is awesome. Yes,
so much better.
You're right in the scheme of things, but
they do give you some tools. Nothing's perfect.
How long did it take you? The last upgrade you did for SharePoint, wasn't it like 4 months or something like that? 6 months.
That sucker dragged on so long. We did it in pieces. I couldn't even do it all at once. It was.
I do remember you had to fix a bunch of stuff with the person before you left. And then you could upgrade, right?
It was before him, but man.
It was all working when he started. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. When you haven't even made it to the office the first time and you get on called, it's good stuff.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I think we need to get this wrapped up. I appreciate everybody showing up. I appreciate everybody that's listening. Remember, we really do want your input, so please give us some comments. Tell us how we're doing, or not. Tell everybody how Justin's doing, because he's wonderful. And then we could go from there. But I appreciate everybody. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere that you can find us. We're also on YouTube, so we'd love to do a custom one if you have some sort of suggestion on what we could talk about, something you're interested in. We
might even stay on topic for it.
And we might even stay on topic for that one,
Might. That's a big might, because we have a problem about rabbit trails. I mean,
yeah. It's at least all mostly been service.
Mostly.
Well,
We didn't talk about guns or anything.
We will hit what you ask us to talk about.
Yeah, we promise
Yeah, we
we'll
will.
talk about what you ask us.
The first 10 minutes. All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate you letting me join.
Yep. Thank you.
Always.
Thank you. Have a good
Always.
one.
Appreciate it, guys.
Bye.
We want to thank our flagship sponsor for this show, the Sharpstone Group, LLC. Sharpstone is your source for all of your ServiceNow needs. Implementation, development, administration, strategy, and architecture. Contact the Sharpstone Group today at info@sharpstonegroup.com or 405-594-0100. We'd love to answer your questions or have you on the show. Contact us at ServiceSharp@sharpstonegroup.com or find our LinkedIn info in the notes. Additional sponsorship opportunities are available.